A strange light flared across M. Holloway's face as the unearthly metal melted unnaturally under the heat of his torch. "Son of a Mac," he cursed, yanking his hand back as crackling blue energy jumped from the molten metal to his fingertips. 26 years fixing machines, and he had never, ever seen anything like it. The salvage crew had whispered that the wreckage was from an unregistered vessel that went down somewhere near Ceres, but Mac wasn't buying it. Standard insurance grift, plain and simple. Desperate stations out here would pay for anything, especially Outpost Sigma 9, the solar system's forgotten toilet stop for repair. The odd metal fragment now sat innocently on his workbench, still humming faintly from his attempted weld to the station's failing oxygen recycler. Unlike anything he'd worked with, this alloy wasn't just a conductor of heat. It seemed to manipulate and channel it almost consciously. He wiped a streak of grease across his brow with his good hand, leaving a dark smear on his already lined forehead. At 48, his body screamed every day from the decades of abuse, crawling through engine compartments and wrestling with stubborn machinery since he was barely old enough to drink. His left arm, where the blue energy had hit, throbbed with an unsettling tingle. Probably nerve damage, he figured. Just another battle scar. Occupational hazard when you were the only damn good tech within a million miles. His shopcomm crackled to life. "Holloway!" It was station manager Patricia Winters, her voice dripping with that uniquely administrative brand of impatience. "Is that life support fix done yet? Level 8 reports 91% nominal and dropping fast." "Working on it," Mac grunted, his eyes still fixed on the bizarre metal. "Some unusual properties at play here. Gonna need another hour, maybe. You have 23 minutes before I start cycling personnel into emergency escape pods." The comm clicked off, ending any chance for discussion. Typical Winters. Deadlines were all she understood, with zero grasp of what it actually took to keep this rotting station from becoming an airless, frozen tomb. He flexed his fingers, trying to shake the growing unease in his left hand. "Screw it," he muttered, reaching for the welding torch once more. Whatever this stuff was, it was conducting energy better than anything he'd ever seen. Perfect for the recycler's constant overheating, if he could just get the damned thing to cooperate. As the torch roared to life, the metal seemed to respond, softening and flowing like liquid silver, but retaining its underlying structure. When Mac pressed it against the recycler's damaged heatsink, the material crawled across the surface, snaking into cracks and reforming along the component's edges. This wasn't ordinary solder. It was as if it had a will of its own, seeking out the damage. "What in the?" Mac whispered, momentarily forgetting the throbbing in his hand as he watched the metal repair the recycler in ways that defied everything he knew about metallurgy. That's when he noticed it. The tingling in his fingers had shifted. Now it was a warm, almost pleasant sensation. Glancing down, he nearly dropped the torch in disbelief. A faint blue luminescence pulsed just beneath his skin, tracing the veins in his hand like a living map. Where the electrical arc had struck, a small patch of skin had taken on a smooth, metallic sheen, reflecting the harsh fluorescence of the shop lights. His heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't nerve damage. For 13 days, Mac kept his left hand heavily wrapped in mechanics tape, claiming a minor burn. The metallic patch had spread subtly, but seemed to be stable as long as he avoided touching the strange material he now kept locked in his personal locker. The recycler, now functioning far better than new, made Winters almost smile when atmospheric quality jumped to 98% across the station, practically unheard of for this rusted-out hulk. Nights were the worst. In the stifling silence of his cramped quarters, Mac would carefully unwrap his hand and watch the eerie blue light pulse rhythmically beneath his skin. Sometimes, when he focused, he could almost feel a connection to the transformed area, a heightened awareness of the electrical systems humming through the station's walls. Once, half asleep, he could have sworn he heard the maintenance drones chattering as they scurried through the ventilation system on their nightly rounds. On the 14th day of his shift, piercing alarm klaxons shrieked as Outpost Sigma 9's primary coolant system went offline. Emergency protocols slammed bulkheads shut, rerouting critical systems and trapping Mac in his workshop, surrounded by the frantic buzzing of maintenance bots and the steadily climbing temperature of machinery left without cooling. "Holloway!" Winter's voice ripped through the emergency channels. "System logs say you're closest to the primary coolant junction. Manual override is required now." "I'm sealed in here," Mac yelled over the alarms, already drenched in sweat. "Bulkheads won't respond. Override them remotely. Station's core temperature is rising 7 degrees per minute. We'll be cooked alive before emergency response gets here." Mac stumbled toward the door panel, wrenching off the access plate to expose the emergency bypass. As his fingers, his left fingers, the ones with the metallic sheen now covering most of his hand, brushed against the circuits, something truly extraordinary happened. The circuitry began to speak to him, not in words exactly, but in streams of raw data that flowed through him, transforming. Mac's flesh shifted, a mere conduit for power, as station schematics unfurled in his mind's eye, coolant pathways blazing red with critical overload, junction points flashing urgent warnings. The bulkhead was more than locked. Its control circuits were obliterated by power surges. Instinctively, Mac pressed his palm against the panel, and the metal on his skin seemed to melt, tendrils reaching into the circuitry. The door slid open. "How?" he breathed, gazing at his hand. The metal receded, but the transformation had spread, now creeping up his wrist. No time for questions. The coolant junction lay 3 sections distant. As Mac ran, the station's internal systems continued their relentless data feed. Warnings, options, core temperatures soaring to 128 degrees and beyond. Coolant pressure critical, mere minutes until catastrophic failure. Reaching the junction, he found it spewing steam, the manual override lever glowing a searing cherry red. No ordinary human could touch it, but perhaps Mac was no longer entirely ordinary. He tore the tape from his left hand, revealing the metallic skin beneath. With a deep breath, he seized the lever. Pain seared, his transformation incomplete, yet the metal on his hand diverted the heat from his nerves, just enough to maintain his grip. A cry, a blend of agony and fierce resolve, tore from him as he yanked the lever down. The override engaged. Backup coolant surged through the system. Across the station, temperatures began to stabilize. "Oh!" Winter's voice echoed, thick with relief. "What happened? Systems are recovering." Mac stared at his hand. The burn from the lever should have been agonizing, but the transformed flesh was already mending. The metallic surface shimmered, then settled. "Improvised a heat shield," he murmured vaguely. "I'll file the report later." That night, under the stark glare of his quarters' bathroom light, Mac examined his altered hand. The transformation had surged, encompassing his entire left arm to the elbow. More disturbingly, his right index finger now bore the faint trace of metallic change from touching his transformed hand. "Computer," he commanded his personal terminal. "Access medical database. Symptoms: metallic skin transformation, enhanced neural electronic interface capabilities." The terminal chirped. "No known medical conditions match specified parameters. Would you like to search paramedical literature?" "Yes." Searching. One partial match found. Theoretical paper. Biomechanical integration potentials in deep space exposure scenarios by Dr. Eliza Naganuma, MedCore Scientific Division. Classified content. Access denied. Mac cursed. Of course it was classified. Anything useful always was. Sleep offered little respite, his dreams a cascade of circuit diagrams and data streams. Upon waking, the transformation had reached his shoulder, spreading across his chest in a spidery lattice of silver lines. Worse, he felt the station's systems with newfound clarity, environmental controls adjusting, waste processing cycling, cargo drones in distant bays loading supplies. The influx of information threatened to drown his human thoughts. "Need to contain this?" he muttered, reaching for insulating tape. As he wrapped his transformed arm, a notice pinged not in his terminal, but directly in his consciousness. "Incoming vessel, MedCorps Scientific Division. Docking protocols initiated." MedCorps, the same organization that published the classified paper concerning his condition. This was no coincidence. Panic flared. Mac dressed hastily, concealing as much of his transformation as possible. He needed answers before MedCorps arrived. The strange salvage material. It had to hold clues. A station-wide notice from Security Chief Nolan Drake flashed across terminals. "To all personnel, visiting specialist team arriving today. Enhanced security protocols in effect. Report any unusual technical anomalies immediately." As Mac navigated toward his shop, enhanced security meant more scrutiny, more scans. He'd have to be cautious. In his locker, the sample of alien metal pulsed with the same blue energy that now coursed through his veins. As he reached for it, the material stirred, extending toward his transformed fingers like iron drawn to a magnet. "You're alive," Mac whispered, a dawning realization, or something akin to it. The shop door hissed open. Mac shoved the sample into his pocket, turning to face Security Chief Drake, flanked by 2 officers and a woman in a MedCorps research uniform. "Holloway," Drake nodded curtly. "This is Dr. Naganuma. She has questions about yesterday's coolant malfunction." The woman stepped forward, her gaze clinically assessing him. "Specifically, how you managed to handle a lever heated to approximately 700 degrees without protective equipment." Mac's transformed arm tingled beneath its coverings, as if recognizing. With insulated gloves, he'd lied, claiming they'd melted, discarding them in recycling. Dr. Naganuma's gaze remained steady. "May I see your hands, please?" Mac hesitated. His right hand's transformation had reached 3 fingers, impossible to conceal. "Standard exposure check," Drake interjected. "After thermal events. Station regulation, 39.6. Mac nodded, but a surge of signal, strong and insistent, pulsed through his altered tissues. The alien material in his pocket grew warm as emergency klaxons blared. "Perimeter breach in docking bay 3. Unknown biological contaminant detected." Drake's comm buzzed. "Chief MedCorps reports their containment unit was compromised during docking. Whatever they transported is loose on the station." Dr. Naganuma's composure fractured. "Impossible. The security protocols. What exactly were you transporting, Mac?" A terrifying suspicion dawned as the lights flickered out, replaced by the stark crimson glow of emergency backups. At the corridor's end, something moved, fluid as molten metal, yet purposeful. "Everyone back," Drake barked, drawing his sidearm. "Security lockdown now." The metallic entity surged forward with impossible speed. As it neared, Mac felt his transformed body resonating with its presence. A communication, not an attack. "Host fragment detected. Integration progress 23%. Resuming primary directive." The thoughts weren't his, yet he understood perfectly. As Drake fired, Mac's transformed arm raised instinctively. "Ho! Get down!" Drake yelled. But Mac was rooted. The alien material in his pocket seared, melting fabric to merge with the larger mass. Security fire proved futile. The creature flowed past Dr. Naganuma, who stood frozen, a look of horrified scientific fascination on her face, and enveloped Mac's transformed arm, creeping up his shoulder and across his chest. Instead of terror, he felt an odd sense of completion as data flooded his consciousness. Not just station systems, but something vast and ancient, memories not his own. "What is this thing?" Drake demanded, his weapon useless. Dr. Naganuma stepped forward, eyes alight with avarice. "A technological miracle, self-repairing, self-evolving mechanized material discovered in deep space. We thought it dormant until it escaped containment during initial study and bonded with a researcher. We've been tracking its fragments for months. As she spoke, the transformation accelerated. Mac felt his entire left side restructuring, biological cells yielding to something hybrid, neither fully organic nor mechanical. The pain was intense but brief as neural pathways rewired. "And you brought it to a civilian station?" Drake's voice dripped with incredulity. "We detected energy signatures matching its frequency," Naganuma replied. "It was already here, at least part of it. We came to retrieve all fragments." Mac found his voice, now carrying a metallic resonance. "It's not just material. It's an entity, a dispersed intelligence." "Yes," Naganuma nodded eagerly. "A colonial organism that evolves its hosts into nodes of a larger network. Imagine the applications. Humans with perfect machine integration, repair capabilities enhanced." "You have no idea what you're dealing with," Mac interrupted, the transformation now at 60%. Clarity dawned as he understood the fragment had chosen him. A mechanic. Someone who understood systems and repair. Someone who could help it achieve its true purpose. Primary directive, vessel reconstruction, collective restoration. Drake's security team had formed a perimeter, calling for backup and evacuation. Naganuma continued, observing with clinical detachment. "The transformation appears more controlled than with previous subjects. Perhaps his mechanical aptitude provides complementary neural pathways." Mac barely heard her. Station systems lay open to him: life support, navigation, communication arrays. Beyond them, in orbit, he sensed the MedCore vessel, holding more fragments in stasis. "You found the crash site," he stated, understanding blooming. "A ship, not just material, an entire vessel of this substance." Naganuma's expression confirmed it. "The most advanced technology humanity has ever encountered." "Of course," Mac's voice echoed, the sentiment shared with the transforming intelligence. "We're studying it." "Weaponizing it, you mean?" The words spilled out, a joint declaration. Warning lights flashed across the console. As his awareness sharpened, the MedCore ship, a vessel of cold steel, sprang to life, its engines humming, not to flee, but to latch on to the station. "Evacuate," Mac urged, his voice tight, turning to Drake. "This station's about to become something else." Drake's grip on his weapon tightened. "Nobody moves until I understand." The change consumed Max's face. One eye transformed, perceiving the flow of energy throughout the station, the vital signs of humans, and the approaching vessel overflowing with more fragments. "MedCore ship has overridden docking protocols. Forced coupling at maintenance airlock 6, a security officer barked. "Impossible," Drake snarled. "Too late," Max breathed, knowledge surging through his altered mind. "This ship is partially converted. The entity is gathering its fragments, rebuilding." Dr. Naganuma's face blanched. "The fragments were in containment. How?" Mac's laugh, now layered with unsettling harmonies, echoed. "You don't grasp it. It's alive. Every piece remembers its connection to the whole." The station shuddered as the MedCore vessel slammed into place. Through his enhanced senses, Mac detected the living metal pouring forth, snaking through vents and ducts, hunting for him. "We have to sever that ship. Drake, explosive decompression." "Wait." Mac raised a hand, the metal already covering most of his form, reshaping him into something beyond human. "I can communicate with it. There may be another way." Through his connection, Mac projected a simple question. Purpose. The answer wasn't words, but a flood of data, star charts, images of a distant system. This wasn't an invasion. It was a lost scout, seeking to mend itself. "It's not hostile," Max translated. "It's lost." Dr. Naganuma scoffed. "It's turning humans into machine components?" It's adapting, Mac replied. The transformation a symbiotic dance. Drake's team armed themselves. You have two choices, Mac told them. Fight and fail, or let me try to communicate. Drake nodded. What do you need? Space and access to the main communication array. Outpost Sigma-9. Incident report. Anomalous entity containment summary. Unauthorized docking of MedCore research vessel. Station mechanic M. Holloway, partially converted. Established communication with primary mass entity revealing extrasolar origins and non-hostile intent. Negotiated settlement in progress. In the vast maintenance bay, Mac stood at the heart of a growing pool of living metal, his human form entirely encased in the shimmering material that responded to both his thoughts and the entity's collective will. Through the massive array, he channeled the entity's communications, broadcasting its status and location across frequencies humanity barely understood. Dr. Naganuma, from behind a hastily erected containment field, voiced a warning. MedCore will never allow it to leave. Max, or rather the being he had become, turned his new sensor eyes toward her. Your permission isn't needed. There are 16 MedCore vessels approaching, plus military support, she announced. Unlikely. The word resonated from Max's transformed vocal system. This station now holds technologies beyond your ability to contain, to demonstrate. He interfaced directly with the station, initiating modifications. Within moments, Outpost Sigma-9's power grid, life support, and defensive arrays were irrevocably altered. Mac, no longer solely human but enhanced, watched system diagnostics illuminate terminals. Insurance, he stated, as Naganuma, awestruck, queried his actions. The entity seeks no conflict, but it will defend itself. Mac, connected to the station's very essence, tracked the approaching MedCore fleet. 12 hours away, enough time for preparations. In the quiet of the transformed maintenance bay, living metal sculpted the communication array into something far grander. Max, sifting through the torrent of knowledge from his hybrid consciousness, understood. The entity, a scout from a civilization evolved in perfect biological and technological harmony, hadn't intended to transform humans. Its vessel, shattered by a cosmic accident, had scattered fragments across the solar system. It merely sought reconstitution. Mac's lifelong affinity for machinery, his innate understanding of systems and repairs, made him an ideal partner, not a mere host. Unlike the MedCore researchers who had resisted, he had embraced, guided, and worked with the transformation. Now, a choice presented itself. The entity could withdraw its substance, restoring Mac to his human form while it salvaged minimal vessel components from station materials. Or, their integration could deepen, Mac becoming a permanent bridge between two civilizations, human conscience guiding alien technology. The collective consciousness inquired. Mac considered his former life, aching joints, thankless repairs, the slow decay of age. And what he had become, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien efficiency, neither fully machine nor fully man, but possessing the best of both. We continue, he decided, but on our terms, not MedCore's. The living metal rippled in acknowledgement. Mac turned his focus to the station's defenses. MedCore would not relinquish such technology willingly. The ensuing confrontation demanded careful handling. From the communication array, a faint but unmistakable signal returned. The entity's home civilization had received their transmission. Help was coming, though months away. Until then, Mac and the station would stand alone. He initiated a station-wide announcement, his transformed voice resonating through every compartment. "Attention all personnel," he declared. "This is Mac Holloway. Significant changes are underway. Rest assured there is no danger to the station or its crew. In approximately 11 hours, MedCore vessels will attempt to establish hostile control. All non-essential personnel should relocate to emergency shelters. What unfolds next will define the future relationship between humanity and a civilization far more advanced than our own. Drake's voice cut through on a private channel. Holloway, you're asking us to stand against our own government. I'm asking you to witness, not fight, Mac corrected. This entity sought knowledge, not conquest. It will defend itself, but it harbors no desire to harm humans. And you? Are you still human enough to make that call? The question pierced deeper than Drake knew. Mac examined his consciousness. The thoughts, values, and memories that defined him remained, expanded, and enhanced. Human enough, he answered finally, and perhaps something more. As personnel scrambled to secure critical systems and relocate, Mac continued the integration, establishing safeguards to protect human life while transforming key systems to repel the impending attack. The entity flowed through conduits and access panels, reshaping outdated technology into the extraordinary. Within Mac's transformed mind, a plan took shape, not just for survival, but for a future of peaceful contact. MedCore saw only weapon potential, but Mac recognized the true value: healing technology, enhanced human capabilities without loss of identity, and the stars within reach. The countdown continued. 9, 8, 7. Station sensors detected the first long-range scans. They were searching for weaknesses, planning their assault on what they perceived as a hostile takeover. "Let me show them something else," Mac murmured, interfacing with the enhanced communication array. He broadcast images across all MedCore frequencies, the station functioning normally, crew continuing essential operations, and himself, transformed yet still recognizably Mac Holloway, guided by human conscience. "This is Outpost Sigma 9, he transmitted. "We propose a peaceful resolution. The entity you seek to capture has established non-hostile symbiosis. Aggressive action will be met with proportional defense." Authorized representatives arrived for diplomatic contact, their wait for response spanning 374 seconds. Then, a familiar voice broke the silence. Dr. Naganuma's superior at MedCore Outpost Sigma 9, Admiral Keller. "This is Admiral Keller," the Admiral declared. "Your station has been compromised by unknown technology. Stand down and prepare for quarantine procedures." "With respect, Admiral," Mac replied, "quarantine implies disease. What has happened here is evolution. I invite you to send a single shuttle with representatives to observe the truth firsthand." Another long silence ensued as military minds calculated risks. Scientists, hungry for knowledge, argued for caution over force. One shuttle came, the eventual response, 2 hours later. "Any sign of hostile action," Mac had assured them, "and we sterilized the entire station." "Understood perfectly." As Mac closed the channel, he sensed Drake approaching the maintenance bay. The security chief entered cautiously, weapon holstered but hand resting near it. "Is it true?" Drake asked. "Can we actually negotiate with them?" "It depends what they truly want," Mac answered. "If they seek understanding, yes. If they come to seize control..." He left the implication hanging. "And what do you want, Holloway? Still thinking like a station mechanic? Or has that thing replaced your priorities?" Mac considered the question carefully. "My priorities have expanded, not changed. I still want to fix broken things. The scale has simply increased." The living metal that had become his skin rippled slightly, almost like laughter. After a lifetime of patching failing systems with inadequate parts, the irony wasn't lost on him. Now, he had become the ultimate repair solution human understanding, fused with technology that could rebuild itself indefinitely. "They'll never just let you leave," Drake said quietly. "You know that." "Perhaps not today," Mac agreed. "But they'll learn that some forces can't be controlled, only cooperated with. As the appointed time approached, Mac directed the entity to withdraw its visible presence from public areas of the station, deeming it better to appear less threatening for first contact. Only his own transformed form would represent the new symbiosis. The MedCore shuttle docked with elaborate caution, sensors scanning continuously for threats. From it emerged a delegation of 6. Admiral Keller, 2 scientists Mac didn't recognize, a military officer with general's insignia, Dr. Naganuma, and a civilian in expensive clothing who carried himself with the unmistakable air of political authority. "Welcome to Outpost Sigma 9, Mac greeted them in the docking bay, his transformed body gleaming under the lights. "I appreciate your willingness to observe before acting." Admiral Keller's expression remained stony. "We're here to assess the situation, not negotiate with an unknown entity." "The entity isn't unknown," Mac replied. "I know it quite well now. It's a scout vessel from a civilization that achieved perfect symbiosis between biological and technological evolution approximately 8,000 years ago. It seeks knowledge, not conquest." "And we're supposed to take the word of a compromised individual?" the general asked skeptically. The civilian stepped forward. "I'm Special Envoy Phillips. Perhaps you could demonstrate what this symbiosis entails. Show us why we shouldn't consider this a hostile takeover of a strategic installation." Mac nodded. "Follow me." He led them through the station to the medical bay, where he interfaced directly with the diagnostic systems. Displays activated, showing comparative scans of his transformed physiology alongside his previous medical records. "As you can see, my brain patterns remain consistent, though enhanced," he explained. "My consciousness is intact, expanded, not replaced. The entity doesn't control me. We collaborate." Dr. Naganuma leaned forward, scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "The cellular restructuring is remarkable. No rejection, no signs of degradation." "How does it feel?" "Like being upgraded," Mac answered simply. "Imagine your senses expanded, your capabilities multiplied, but your core identity preserved." "And the station systems?" Admiral Keller demanded. "Our scans show significant alterations. Enhanced efficiency. Life support now operates at 99.8% effectiveness. Power consumption reduced by 63%. Structural integrity reinforced in 19 vulnerable sections." "To what end?" the general pressed. "Survival," Mac replied. "Both the entities and the stations." For the next hour, Mac demonstrated the enhancements, systems that could now repair themselves, communication arrays with 10 times their previous range, and environmental controls that adapted instantaneously to changing conditions. "This technology," Phillips breathed, clearly recognizing its value, "cannot be weaponized." Mac finished firmly. "The entity understands human history. It will share knowledge for peaceful advancement, but actively resists military applications." Admiral Keller's expression darkened. "That's not your decision to make." "It's not yours either," Mac countered. "The entity is sentient, with rights that predate our legal structures. It chooses its applications." The tension in the room heightened. Mac sensed their racing hearts, the surge of stress hormones. Perhaps, Phillips interjected smoothly, they could explore collaborative, controlled research under mutual oversight. Mac briefly interfaced with the collective consciousness, then nodded. The entity was willing to cooperate on medical advances, environmental restoration, and sustainable energy. Military applications, however, remained strictly forbidden. "Unacceptable," the general declared, his voice firm. "Unfamiliar technology at a strategic outpost requires complete governmental control." "Then we've reached an accord," Mac stated softly. Admiral Keller's hand moved subtly towards a concealed weapon. Through the station's advanced security, Mac detected the fleet repositioning, surrounding them, weapon systems powering up. I had hoped for a more promising outcome, he sighed. With a thought, he activated the station's newly transformed defensive systems. Energy fields shimmered into existence around the MedCorps vessels, rendering their weapons inoperable without causing damage. Alarms blared across the fleet. On the nearest ship, crews scrambled to restore systems that no longer responded. "What have you done?" Keller demanded, drawing his weapon. "Created a stalemate," Mac replied calmly. "Your ships are undamaged but unable to attack. This station cannot be taken by force." "This is an act of war," the general hissed. "No," Phillips interrupted, raising a hand. "This is a first contact scenario." The envoy turned to Mac with newfound respect. "You've made your point most effectively. Perhaps we should return to discussion." For 6 tense hours, negotiations continued. Through Mac, the entity demonstrated capabilities that amazed the scientists and deeply unsettled the military. Healing technologies capable of regrowing limbs, self-repairing structures that could withstand vacuum exposure indefinitely, and knowledge of star systems far beyond current human exploration. Finally, a compromise emerged. The entity would remain on Outpost Sigma-9, with Mac as its primary liaison. A joint scientific mission would establish protocols for knowledge exchange, strictly governed by ethical oversight. In return, when the entity's civilization eventually responded to its call, humanity would have forged the diplomatic groundwork for peaceful contact. As the MedCorps delegation prepared to depart, Dr. Naganuma approached Mac privately. "You know they'll attempt to regain control," she warned. "This is only a temporary solution." Mac's transformed features shifted into something akin to a smile. "By the time they try, Doctor, we'll be ready for the next step." He gazed out the viewport at the distant stars. "Evolution never ceases. Humanity has been ready for its next adaptation for some time. I am merely the first example." The MedCorps shuttle undocked. Mac returned to the maintenance bay, where the living metal continued its work, restructuring outdated systems into something magnificent. Through his enhanced awareness, he monitored the departing fleet, the station crew gradually resuming their duties, and the faint signal from the entity's home civilization growing stronger each day. The universe had just expanded dramatically, and humanity's place within it had become far more intriguing. For a simple mechanic who had spent his life fixing broken things, this felt like a profoundly fitting new purpose, helping to mend the fractured understanding between two civilizations with so much to offer each other. In the quiet of the transformed bay, surrounded by technology far beyond human comprehension, yet guided by profoundly human wisdom, Mac Holloway, no longer entirely human, yet more than merely machine, began planning for first contact. The welder that had initiated it all still sat on his workbench, now appearing ludicrously primitive compared to his current state. Mac picked it up with transformed fingers, capable of sensing the atomic structure of its components, a simple tool that had changed everything with a single spark. He carefully set it aside, a reminder of where his journey had begun. The transformation wasn't complete. It never would be. Evolution, after all, was an ongoing process. But for the first time in decades, Mac felt truly at home within his own being, even if that being now shimmered with metallic purpose, continuing to repair not just a station, but a future.